Before this war started, the Senator Lindsey Graham went to Israel 7 times, and according to the Wall Street Journal, he coached Netanyahu, in his own words, coached Netanyahu to convince Trump to fight Iran with him. Now, for me, I believe that's personally insane that a U.S. person in government would go to a foreign country to convince a foreign leader to convince the United States president to fight a war on their behalf. Imagine for a second you replace Israel with any other country, especially our adversaries like Russia, China, Belgium, just throwing random things out there. We would never make that exception for any other country. And yet, no one seemed to bat an eye about that, which I thought was weird because it's not something that was hidden, it's something out completely in the open, which doesn't make any sense to me that no one questions that the president of the United States kind of got manipulated into fighting a war for what? And furthermore, Joe Kent, who was recently just fired, was he had an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he was saying that when Netanyahu was there, U.S. intelligence was unable to be in the same room as him and Trump, as he was convincing and manipulating him into fighting this war. And he was saying that, based on what Israel was telling him, completely contradicted what the US intelligence was saying about Iran. That they're not building nuclear weapons, they're not building mass weapons of destruction to attack the United States, doing none of that. In fact, the foreign minister of Oman even said, because this was during the peace negotiations or deal, whatever they were making, stating that the deal he was getting, that Donald Trump was getting right now with Israel, was better than what he got under Obama. There was no indication they were going to attack, and that's not just me saying that. The Pentagon, according to Reuters, a source from Reuters, said that there was no indication they were even going to attack the US. Now, yes, the weapons they had were very dangerous, weapons of mass destruction, sure. But there was no indication they were going to attack first. Furthermore, the president himself stated that last year he completely obliterated Iran's nuclear sites. How the hell are they? What are you blowing up? What are you doing? The other thing is, I've heard people say, I think it was, what's that guy's name? Marco Rubio. He was saying that it's because if they attacked Israel, they were going to attack us. Because I guess apparently Israel was going to attack them no matter what. But my thing is, if Israel being attacking Iran puts the US at jeopardy, maybe we should start questioning a bit how beneficial is this ally? That's just me, though. It's just me. But I would have to disagree with Senator Rubio or Marco Rubio, because during Biden's era, when Israel attacked Iran during, I believe it was, what was it considered? Not the 12-day war. I don't know what war it was. But Iran only attacked Israel in response to that. They never attacked the US, and the US actually helped Israel shoot down some of those drones they shot at them. No repercussions towards the US. Not at all. So why would that be different? You ask me? I say it wouldn't be. Iran typically does, yes, they use their proxies to attack Israel, to attack neighboring countries, whatever, but they never directly intervene unless they are attacked first by you. Which, the other thing is that concerned me is that Netanyahu himself even stated shortly after, and I quote, or paraphrase, I have waited 40 years for this. I have waited 40 years for this to happen. And Donald Trump has finally given me my greatest wish. It's a bit suspicious. And speaking of Netanyahu, this is the same guy that's been saying that Iran's 2 months away, 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. You've been saying that since the 1980s. Don't you think they would have had it by now? Duh. It's just, it made me start questioning one, the relationship we have with Israel, and two, why exactly is Israel so keen on dismantling Iran? Why? And maybe start questioning why. And I believe the reason for it is simple. Iran poses a major problem for Israel in the region. In terms of, yes, they are a threat to Israel, sure, I'll admit that, via their prophecies and via that Iran just doesn't like Israel. But how exactly does the US play into that? Because I think that should always be your first response. After all, if you're American, your first response should be, why should that matter to me? Why should a foreign government's or a foreign country's problems matters to me? I think that should be the first response. That's just how I am. And based on what I've seen, there really isn't much benefit to even attacking Iran. There really isn't. The Ayatollah was almost fucking dead at his age. Like the guy maybe lasted like 5 more years at best. Could have just waited him out. No reason to really take him out. Guy was replaced in like 5 days by his kids. But going back to the issue at hand, I got a bit off topic. It should always be, I think, about how does this benefit the US and why should the US take action? And from what I've seen, there was no reason, no justification for the US to get involved in what I consider Israel's war. Because so far, when you look at the data, when you look at the results, the only countries that have gained something from this are the four I can think of off the top of my head. Israel, which is currently doing really damn well, actually. In fact, they've conquered 15% of not Hezbollah, Lebanon, southern Lebanon right now. And actually, a thing that just passed was in the Senate that gives Israel more weapons and bulldozers, interesting enough. Wonder why they need those. Using them so they can demolish Christian Palestinian, Christian Lebanese homes because they don't want them returning. That's ethnic cleansing. Terrible crime. No one bats an eye at that. Oh. But the point is, I think this war. No, going back to the other three. Russia, because Trump had to unsanction some of their oil because of how much the oil was going up. And interestingly, he had to unsanction Iran, which is the country he's currently fighting, because the oil's too high. All you did was help them. And their win condition's so simple. They just literally need to survive. And I was reading this article, it was stating that if the US fails to achieve whatever the hell the goal is, I honestly do not know. I've heard regime change. I've heard that they want to take out the nukes. They want to take the uranium. I don't freaking know. I don't even think the guy knows. But literally just surviving is enough to guarantee them a win. And in the future, for future conflicts, if the US is involved in that, they can say, look at me. I stood up to the US. I beat the US. And in my opinion, that makes the US look weak. Honestly, I think the US looks weak right now. We're not winning. We have this ceasefire thing that's going on. You don't really, I don't think you would need to make a ceasefire deal if you're winning or their entire army's destroyed or whatnot. And the last country is China. And I would say China's the biggest threat to the US. They're clearly, I would say, the second most powerful at the very least. And I was looking into why they're not involved. From what I've seen, they're not involved for a very simple reason. Because even if Iran falls or whatnot, is replaced by some kind of other government that's more friendly to the US, more friendly to Israel, whatnot, it- China doesn't believe that Iran is necessary to be able to stand up to the US. And there was this former Navy SEAL general. He was saying what China's doing right now is taking this time to build up their navy enough to where I believe he said by 2050-ish that China will be superior in terms of the sea terms of like submarine warfare and stuff, than the US by that time. And they're taking this opportunity right now because the US is too distracted by the war in Iran. So to conclude, this war is being fought because one of our senators went to a foreign country, went to a foreign leader to manipulate the president of the United States to fight a country that we have no business putting our hands into. And furthermore, we're not winning it. The only countries that are winning is Israel, Russia, China, and Iran, interestingly enough. And our allies, they're not coming to our aid. So I just hope, I always hope that the US comes out on top. I don't agree with the war, but I do hope they win this war. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't even think the president knows what it's going to look like. I don't even think he knows what he's doing. But I just hope it turns out well. Thank you for listening.